The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for 11,000 years. 400 species sat together in the Great Crystal Chamber on Nexus Prime, making laws and keeping peace across a million worlds. They were old. They were powerful. They believed they had seen everything the universe could offer. They had never seen anything like humanity. Director Alara Vance walked into the chamber with her head held high. She was tall for a human, with dark hair pulled back tight and eyes that missed nothing. Behind her walked aides carrying data tablets, but she needed no notes for what she had come to say. The chamber fell silent as she reached the speaking platform. 400 alien species watched her with eyes and sensors and organs humans had no names for. Some looked curious. Some looked bored. A few looked at her the way a person might look at an insect that had wandered into their home. Alara did not care how they looked at her. She cared only about saving her people. Honored representatives of the Galactic Council, she began, her voice steady and clear. I come before you today to request aid. 3 years ago, the Kethari swarm began attacking human colonies along our outer borders. At first, they sent scouts, then raiding parties. 6 months ago, they sent a full invasion fleet to the colony world we called Harvest 3. She touched a control on her wrist. A holographic image appeared above the speaking platform, showing a beautiful green world with 2 small moons. 40,000 humans lived on Harvest. 3 farmers, teachers, children, families, who had traveled across the stars to build new lives. The image changed. Now it showed the same world covered in a living carpet of horror. Massive organic ships hung in the sky. Creatures with too many legs and too many mouths swarmed across the surface. Buildings burned. People ran. People screamed. People died. The Kethari do not take prisoners, Alara said. They do not negotiate. They do not want our technology or our resources. They want only one thing. The image changed again. This time it showed the aftermath. The planet was gray and dead. Every tree, every blade of grass, every animal, every person had been consumed. The Kethari had dissolved them all into organic slurry to feed their endless hunger. They want to eat us, Alara said simply. All of us. Every human being in existence, we are food to them, nothing more. She let the images fade and looked around the chamber. Humanity has fought back with everything we have. Our fleets have won some battles and lost others. But we are a young species. We number only 12 billion across all our worlds. The Kethari swarm numbers in the trillions. Without help, we will be destroyed within 10 years. She took a deep breath. We are asking the Galactic Council for help. We are asking you to stand with us against a threat that will not stop with humanity. The swarm is always hungry. Today, they eat us. Tomorrow, they will look for new prey. Help us stop them now, while they can still be stopped. She finished speaking and waited. The chamber buzzed with conversation in 100 languages. Representatives whispered to each other. Data was shared. Opinions were formed. Finally, High Arbiter Thiessen of the Vorn hierarchy rose to speak. Thiessen was ancient, even by galactic standards. His species had been part of the Council since its founding. His body was a mass of gray tentacles wrapped around a central core, and his voice came from a translator device embedded in his chest. The Council thanks the human representative for her presentation, he said. We will now deliberate. The deliberation lasted 6 hours. Alara stood on the speaking platform the entire time, watching and waiting. She saw representatives argue. She saw them vote on procedural matters. She saw them break for refreshments, and return looking no different than before. Finally, Thiessen rose again. The Galactic Council has reached a decision, he announced. We will not provide military assistance to humanity at this time. Lara felt her heart turn to ice, but she kept her face calm. May I ask why? Certainly. Under galactic law, the Council may only intervene in conflicts involving member species. Humanity has not yet completed the 3-century probationary period required for full membership. You are, legally speaking, still observers. 40,000 people are dead, Alara said quietly. A tragedy, Thiessen agreed. But not a matter of galactic law. The Cathari, while distasteful in their methods, have not violated any council regulations. Consuming non-member species is not technically illegal, saying our lives don't count because we haven't been members long enough. Thiesen's tentacles shifted in what might have been discomfort. I am saying that the council must follow its own laws. We cannot make exceptions, even for sympathetic cases. If we intervene for you today, we must intervene for everyone tomorrow. The system would collapse. The system? Alara repeated. I see. She looked around the chamber one more time. 400 species. 400 civilizations that had built wonders across the stars. 400 peoples who had decided that watching humanity die was easier than changing a rule. Ambassador Korith of the Deloni tried to catch her eye. His species had voted to help humanity. They had argued for hours on her behalf, but they were only one voice among 400 and they had lost. Alara turned back to Thiessen. Then humanity withdraws its application for council membership, she said. Permanently. The chamber erupted. Representatives shouted. Translators struggled to keep up. Thiessen raised his tentacles for silence. Director Vance, I urge you to reconsider. Outside the council, you will have no protection, no access to our technology markets, no diplomatic recognition. You will be alone. We are already alone, Alara said. You just made that very clear. She turned and began walking toward the exit. Ambassador Korith rushed to intercept her. There must be another way. Perhaps if you waited, gathered more evidence, made another appeal. Alara stopped and looked at him. Her eyes were dry, but something burned behind them that made Korith step back. Ambassador, your people tried to help us. We will not forget that. But we will not beg. We will not wait for a council that has already decided we are acceptable losses. We will find another way. She looked past him at the assembled representatives. Humanity will remember this day, she said, loud enough for all to hear. We will remember who helped us. We will remember who refused. And when the swarm comes for you someday, as it surely will, perhaps you will remember too. She walked out. The doors sealed behind her. High Arbiter, Thiessen watched her go. In 11,000 years, he had never seen a species walk away from the council. They always came back eventually, broken and desperate, ready to accept any terms. He made a note in the official record. Humanity. Extinction projected within standard decade. No further action required. Then he called for the next item on the agenda. And the Galactic Council moved on to other business. Out in the corridor, Alara Vance stood alone. Her aides had already gone ahead to prepare the ship. For a long moment, she simply breathed, letting the weight of what had just happened settle on her shoulders. Then she straightened her spine, lifted her chin, and walked toward the docking bay. Humanity had been rejected by the galaxy. Now it was time to show the galaxy what humanity could do. Alone. 5 years passed in the glittering halls of Nexus Prime. The Galactic Council continued its ancient work. Trade agreements were signed. Border disputes were settled. The Vorn and the Thazari argued about mining rights in the outer systems, just as they had argued for thousands of years. Everything seemed normal, but something was wrong. It started small. A merchant captain mentioned that he had not seen a human cargo ship in months. A diplomat noted that her messages to human contacts went unanswered. A scientist reported that human research stations had stopped sharing data. At first, no one paid much attention. Humanity was a young species facing extinction. Perhaps they were simply too busy dying to maintain normal contact with the outside galaxy. But the months passed, and the silence grew deeper. Ambassador Korith of the Deloni was the first to raise the matter officially. He stood before the council with a worried expression on his gentle face. "Honored representatives," he said, "I must report a disturbing situation. The Deloni have attempted to contact humanity through every available channel for the past 8 months. We have sent diplomatic messages, trade inquiries, and personal communications. We have received no response to any of them." "Perhaps they are all dead," someone suggested from the back of the chamber. That is what I feared, Korath admitted. So I sent a survey ship to investigate. It scanned 6 human colony worlds along their border. He paused, his hands trembling slightly. All 6 worlds were empty. The chamber buzzed with surprised murmurs. Empty. High Arbiter, Thiessen asked. You mean destroyed? Consumed by the swarm? No, High Arbiter. I mean empty. The cities were intact. The power grids were still running. Ships sat in their docking bays. But there were no people. Not a single human being on any of the 6 worlds. That is impossible, Thiessen declared. Where could they have gone? We do not know. But there's more. Korath activated a holographic display showing a star map. We expanded our survey to include the Cathari border zone, the area where the swarm was attacking human colonies. We found the same thing. Empty worlds. Abandoned stations. No signs of battle. No signs of destruction. Just nothing. A cold feeling began to spread through the chamber. Has anyone had contact with humanity? Korath asked, looking around. Anyone at all? Silence. Has anyone received a response to any communication in the past year? More silence. Has anyone's sensors detected human vessels anywhere outside their core systems? The silence became heavy and uncomfortable. Then the Cathari representative spoke. The Cathari did not attend council meetings in person. They sent bioconstructs instead. These were artificial bodies grown from swarm organic matter, controlled by the hive mind from far away. The construct that spoke for the swarm was shaped roughly like a human, but its skin was gray and its eyes were solid black. We have not engaged human forces in 18 cycles, the construct said. Every eye in the chamber turned to look at it. You stopped attacking them? Thiessen asked. It's negative. We have attempted engagement repeatedly. We have sent scout fleets to locate human population centers. We have deployed sensor arrays across their claimed territory. We have searched every world, every moon, every asteroid where humans were known to live. The construct's black eyes seem to grow darker. Cannot find them. They are gone. Gone where? Someone demanded. Unknown. Our scouts that enter human-claimed space do not return. Our sensor arrays go silent within hours of deployment. Something is destroying them, but we cannot determine what. It is as if the humans have simply dissolved. The chamber erupted in confused debate. Species accused each other of hiding information. Wild theories flew back and forth. Some suggested the humans had developed cloaking technology. Others proposed they had fled to another galaxy. A few dark voices wondered if the swarm had already consumed them all and was simply lying about it. But the Cathari had no reason to lie. They wanted to eat humanity. If they had succeeded, they would have been proud of it. Over the following months, the mystery only deepened. Long-range surveys of human space showed planet after planet sitting empty. Cities stood silent under alien suns. Farms grew wild without farmers to tend them. Ships floated in orbit with no one at the controls. 12 billion humans had vanished without a trace. The Deloni sent a diplomatic vessel to make contact. It was a small ship, unarmed, broadcasting messages of peace in every language. Known to humanity, the ship reached the old human border and found something new. Automated warning buoys, hung in space at regular intervals. They broadcast a simple message that repeated over and over in thousands of languages. Beyond this point lies human space. Entry is not permitted. Departing vessels will be escorted out. Remaining vessels will be considered hostile. This is your only warning, the Deloni captain hesitated. Her orders were to make contact, but she had not expected this. She tried broadcasting a friendly message explaining that she came in peace, that the Deloni had always been friends to humanity. The buoys did not respond. After long consideration, the captain decided to proceed. Surely the humans would recognize a Deloni vessel. Surely they would remember that the Deloni had tried to help them. The ship crossed the border. 30 seconds later, it vanished from all sensors. No explosion. No debris. No distress signal. It was simply there one moment and gone the next. Ambassador Korath received the news with a face like stone. He demanded that the council investigate. He pleaded for a fleet to be sent. He warned that something dangerous was happening in human space, something that threatened everyone. High Arbiter Thesan considered the matter for 3 months before delivering his verdict. Council has determined that humanity has clearly developed isolationist tendencies, he announced. They have chosen to withdraw from galactic society. We must respect their choice. When they are ready to rejoin civilized discourse, we will welcome them back. And my ship, Korath demanded. My crew? A regrettable incident. They were warned not to cross the border. They chose to ignore that warning. The consequences were their own responsibility. Korath stood in disbelief. You are going to do nothing? We are going to wait, Thesan corrected him. Humanity is young and frightened. They have suffered great losses. It is natural for them to hide while they recover. In time, they will emerge. They always do. But in private, behind closed doors and encrypted channels, the elder species whispered to each other. The Vorn sent their fastest scouts to observe human space from a distance. The scouts reported strange energy readings, massive construction projects, and technology signatures that matched nothing in any database. The Thesari intercepted a fragment of a human transmission. It contained only 3 words before dissolving into static. Phase 2 complete. Meridian Collective detected a gravitational anomaly near Earth that suggested something impossibly massive was being built in orbit. No one shared this information with the Council. No one wanted to be the first to admit what they were all beginning to feel. Fear for 11,000 years. The Galactic Council had been the most powerful force in known space. They had tamed wild species. They had ended great wars. They had believed, truly believed, that nothing could threaten them. Now, in the silence where humanity used to be, something was growing. Something was changing. Something was preparing, and for the first time in memory, the ancient species of the galaxy looked toward human space and felt like prey. The Kethri swarm attacked the Deloni homeworld. On a quiet morning when the sky was pink with sunrise, there was no warning. There was no declaration of war. There was only the sudden darkening of the heavens as 200 billion bioforms descended from orbit. The Deloni were a peaceful people. They had joined the Galactic Council 10,000 years ago, not for power or influence, but because they believed in cooperation. They believed that different species could work together. They believed in kindness. Their fleet was small. Their weapons were designed for defense, not attack. When the swarm came for them, they knew they could not win. Ambassador Korath sent a desperate message to Nexus Prime from the planet's surface. His wife and children huddled behind him as explosions shook the building. This is Ambassador Korath of the Deloni. The Kethari swarm is attacking our homeworld. We estimate 200 billion hostile organisms in system. Our defense fleet has been destroyed. Ground forces are being overwhelmed. We require immediate assistance from all available Council forces. Please respond. Please help us. The Council responded with promises. Emergency sessions were called. Fleet coordination began. But the nearest Council ships were days away. The Deloni would be dead in hours. On the planet's surface, Korath held his family close. He had spent his whole life believing in the goodness of the galaxy. Now that belief would cost him everything. Then the sky changed. Rifts appeared in the fabric of space itself. They were like wounds in reality, edges burning with strange light. Through these rifts came ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. There were only 40 of them. They were small by galactic standards, each one perhaps a quarter the size of a standard Vorn cruiser. Their hulls were black and smooth, without any visible weapons or engines. They moved through space in perfect formation, silent as ghosts. The Kethari swarm turned to face this new threat. 200 billion bioforms against 40 small vessels. The outcome seemed obvious. The battle began. Korath watched from the ground as light filled the sky. The human ships fired weapons that left no trails and made no sound. Where those weapons touched swarm bioforms, the creatures simply ceased to exist, not exploded. Not burned, ceased. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. The swarm tried to swarm the human vessels. Billions of creatures rushed toward them from every direction. The human ships did not dodge or evade. They simply continued firing, and everything that came close to them died. 11 minutes. That was all it took. When it was over, the sky was clear. The swarm fleet had been reduced to drifting organic debris that was already dissolving in the upper atmosphere. The Delony homeworld was saved. Korath stumbled outside, his family still clinging to him. All around the city, Delony were emerging from shelters. Looking up at the sky with wonder and disbelief, the human ships hung in orbit, silent and waiting. Korath ran to the nearest communication center. His hands shook as he opened a channel to the orbiting vessels. Human ships, this is Ambassador Korath of the Delony. We cannot express our gratitude. You have saved our entire species. Please, let us thank you properly. Let us. A face appeared on the screen. A human woman, older than he remembered, with gray in her dark hair and lines around her eyes that had not been there before. But the steel in her gaze was the same. Ambassador Korath, said Director Alara Vance. It has been a long time, Director Vance. Korath could not believe his eyes. You are still alive? After everything, how is this possible? We survived, Ambassador. Against all expectations, humanity survived. But where did you go? Where have you been for 5 years? What happened to your people? Vance smiled slightly. It was not a warm smile. We went home, she said. All of us. Every human from every colony returned to Earth. We decided that if the galaxy would not help us, we would help ourselves. And you built. This Korath gestured at the ships visible through the window. In 5 years? In 5 years, that is not possible. The technology you use today, the weapons, the engines that brought you here, nothing in Council space can do what you just did. The Council was very clear that we were not part of Council space, Vance replied. We were free to develop our own path. On Nexus Prime. The Council was watching the battle recordings in stunned horror. High Arbiter Thiessen played the footage again and again. 40 ships. 200 billion swarm creatures. 11 minutes. Complete annihilation. This cannot be accurate, he insisted. The recordings must be damaged. No species could develop such weapons in 5 years. No species could. The recordings are accurate. High Arbiter, his aide said quietly. We have confirmed them from 12 different sources. The humans did exactly what the footage shows. Thiessen stared at the screen. In 11,000 years, he had never seen anything like this. The swarm had been a threat that worried even the oldest Council species. The humans had destroyed them like insects. He immediately ordered a diplomatic summit. Humanity must be brought back into the galactic community. Their technology must be shared. Their alliance must be secured, Director Vance declined the invitation. Her message was brief. Humanity has no interest in joining the Galactic Council. We came to help the Delony because they were kind to us when kindness was rare. We will leave now. Thiessen sent a frantic reply. You cannot simply leave. The swarm will return. They will attack Council species again. You must help us. Vance's response arrived an hour later. High Arbiter, 5 years ago I stood before your council and begged for help. 40,000 of my people had just been eaten alive. You told me that our deaths did not matter because we were not members yet. You told me that the rules could not be changed. You told me that our extinction was, and I quote, not a matter of galactic law. You made your position very clear. Regional conflicts between non-member species are not the Council's concern. We are simply returning the same courtesy. The human ships vanished into their reality rifts and were gone. Ambassador. Korath watched them go from his damaged homeworld. His wife stood beside him, still shaking from the terror of the attack. They saved us, she said softly. Why did they save us? Korath remembered standing in a corridor on Nexus Prime, watching Director Vance walk away from everything she had hoped for. He remembered the words she had spoken to him. Because we tried to help them, he said, when no one else would. They remembered, will they come back? If the swarm attacks again? Korath did not answer. He did not know, but he did know one thing. The galaxy had changed today. The old rules no longer applied. The Council's power, which had seemed absolute for 11,000 years, now looked fragile and small. Humanity had walked away from galactic civilization as a desperate, dying species. They had returned to something else entirely. And Korath suspected that the galaxy was only beginning to understand what that meant. The Cathari swarm was hungry, and it was angry. The destruction of 200 billion bioforms above Deloni had wounded the hive mind. But it had not killed it. The swarm was vast beyond imagining. It stretched across 100 systems. It numbered in the trillions. And now it wanted revenge, but it could not reach humanity. Every fleet sent toward human space vanished without a trace. Every scout, every probe, every sensor drone that crossed the border simply disappeared. The humans had built a wall around themselves. Nothing could breach it, so the swarm turned its hunger toward easier prey. The first attack came against the Fasari. They were an old species, proud and powerful, with a fleet that had not lost a major battle in 6,000 years. They believed they were ready for the swarm. They were wrong. The Thessari lost 3 colony worlds in a single week. Their defense fleets were overwhelmed. Their soldiers were consumed. Billions of the Zari citizens became food for the endless hunger of the hive. The Galactic Council mobilized its forces. Ships from a dozen species rushed to help. But they arrived too late, or too weak, or in too few numbers. The swarm had learned from its defeat above Deloni. It struck fast and hard, then retreated before help could arrive. The second attack came against the Vorn hierarchy. They lost a shipyard world that had taken 1,000 years to build. The third attack came against the Meridian Collective. They lost their entire outer rim. After each attack, the same desperate cry echoed across the galaxy. Where are the humans? They did not come. Ambassador Korath finally decided to make the journey himself. He took a small diplomatic ship and flew toward human space. Passing the warning buoys that had stopped so many others, his ship was not destroyed. Instead, silent drones appeared around him and escorted him to a space station orbiting. Earth Director Vance met him in a viewing gallery. Below them, the human homeworld turned slowly. It was beautiful, all blue oceans and green lands and white clouds. Around it hung massive structures that Korath could not identify. Shipyards, perhaps, or weapons platforms, or something entirely new. You came alone, Vance observed. That was brave. I came because I had to understand, Korath said. Millions of people are dying. The swarm is destroying one species after another. You have the power to stop them. I saw what your ships did above my world. Why will you not help? Vance looked at him for a long moment. Then she turned to face the window. When we came to the council 8 years ago, we were desperate. We had just lost 40,000 people to the swarm. We had watched them dissolve our colonists into food. We had heard their screams over the communication channels. Her voice was calm, but something hard lay beneath it. We asked for help. We explained the threat. We provided evidence, testimony, everything the council required. Do you know what they told us? I was there, Korath said quietly. Then you remember. They told us that our lives did not matter because we had not been members long enough. They told us that the swarm eating us was not illegal because we were not real people under galactic law. They looked at 40, 1,000 dead humans, and decided it was someone else's problem. She turned back to face him. We went home to Earth. Every human from every colony came back to our homeworld. 12 billion people on one planet working together for one goal, survival, and you've built all of this? Korath gestured at the structures visible through the window. We've built more than you can see. For 5 years, we poured everything we had into one question. How do we protect ourselves when no one else will? We took every piece of technology we had collected during our brief time in galactic society. We studied it. We improved it. We invented new sciences that the Council has never imagined. But why will you not use that power to help others? Vance smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Ambassador, we are not the galaxy's soldiers. We are not the Council's weapon. We are not responsible for saving species who watched us die and did nothing. The Deloni tried to help us. You argued for us in the Council. You voted to send ships. You were the only ones who showed us any kindness when we needed it most. That is why we saved your world. Then help the others too. Please, whatever they did or did not do, they do not deserve to be eaten. Vance was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was softer, almost sad. Let me tell you what I learned in that council chamber 8 years ago. I learned that the Galactic Council is not a community. It is a system designed to protect the powerful and abandon the weak. For 11,000 years, species have joined that system believing it would keep them safe. But when real danger comes, the system fails them. Every time. The humans were supposed to be acceptable losses. We were supposed to die quietly while the council debated procedure. But we did not die. We survived. We grew stronger. And now the council wants us to save them from the consequences of their own failures. She shook her head. We will not do it. Not because we are cruel, not because we want revenge, but because saving the council would mean preserving a system that does not deserve to be preserved. Korath stared at her. You want the council to fall? I want the galaxy to learn a lesson. Real protection comes from real community. From species that care about each other, that help each other, that treat each other as equals. The council never offered us that. They offered us rules and bureaucracy and 1,000 excuses why our deaths did not matter. So let them face the swarm. Let them understand what it means to be alone against an enemy that wants to consume them. Maybe then they will build something better. Before Korath could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the station. What is happening? He asked. Vance checked a display on the wall. A slow smile spread across her face. It seems the swarm has finally decided to try again. They are sending their largest fleet ever toward our borders. 12 trillion bioforms. The biggest attack in their entire history. Korath felt ice in his stomach. 12 trillion. But that is everything they have left. Yes. They are putting everything into one final attack on humanity. You cannot survive that. Even with your technology, Ambassador, Vance cut him off gently. Watch. She led him to a larger viewing chamber where dozens of human officers were monitoring displays. The screens showed the approaching swarm fleet. It was vast beyond imagination, a living wave of hunger stretching across the stars. Human ships moved to intercept. Not 40 this time. Hundreds, thousands, a fleet that had been hidden. Waiting, preparing for exactly this moment, the two forces met at the edge of human space. The battle lasted for hours. When it was over, the Cathari swarm had been reduced by 97%. Their homeworld, a living planet of organic horror, had been found and sterilized. Their queen minds, the intelligence at the center of the hive, had been systematically targeted and destroyed. What remained of the swarm were scattered, mindless remnants. They would never threaten anyone again. Humanity had not just defeated the swarm. They had ended it. Korath stood in the viewing chamber, unable to speak. Around him, human officers celebrated quietly. There were no cheers, no wild celebrations, just a deep, satisfied silence. Vance stood beside him. Now, do you understand? She asked. We did not need the council. We did not need anyone. Everything they told us about our weakness, our youth, our inevitable extinction, it was all wrong. We are humanity. We adapt. We overcome. We survive. And we never forget. The Galactic Council summoned humanity to answer for its crimes. High Arbiter Thiessen stood before the crystal chamber and read the charges in a voice that shook with outrage. The complete destruction of the Cathari swarm. The extinction of an entire species. The violation of every principle the Council held sacred. This is genocide, he declared. Extinction-level response to a regional conflict. Humanity must answer for what it has done. Director Alara Vance attended the hearing. She stood on the same speaking platform where she had begged for help 8 years earlier. She looked older now, wiser, and completely unafraid. The Cathari consumed 11 of our colony worlds, she said calmly. Over 600,000 human beings. They then attacked 4 council species and consumed tens of millions more. When we eliminated them, we ended a threat that your council refused to address for decades. She paused. You are welcome. Tizan's tentacles writhed with anger. You cannot simply destroy an entire species and expect no consequences. Why not? Vance asked. This swarm would have destroyed us. They would have destroyed the Deloni. It would have destroyed every species they could catch. They were monsters. We removed them. The council demands nothing from humanity. Vance's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. Every representative fell silent. We are not your members, she continued. We are not your subjects. We're not your allies. We owe you nothing. She stepped forward, and something in her presence made the 400 species shrink back in their seats. But I will tell you what we are. We are the species that came to you for help and was turned away. We are the species that survived anyway. We are the species that has now accomplished alone what your 400 civilizations could not. She looked around the chamber slowly, meeting eyes with representatives who looked away. Let me be clear, humanity is not your enemy. We have no interest in conquest or empire. We will not attack you. We will not threaten you. We'll continue to trade with species who treat us fairly. We'll continue to help friends like the Deloni. Her voice hardened. But we will also never save you. It's not from the next swarm, not from the next threat, not from each other. You built a civilization of bystanders, species that would rather watch others burn than risk their own comfort. That is your choice. These are the consequences. High Arbiter Thiessen drew himself up to his full height. The Council will not tolerate this disrespect. We've ruled the galaxy for 11,000 years. We have done nothing, Vance interrupted. For 11,000 years you have made rules and given speeches and pretended that you were keeping the peace. But when real danger came, you hid behind procedure. You told dying species that their lives did not matter yet. You built a system that protects the powerful and abandons the weak. We have shown you what a single species can accomplish in 5 years when it stops waiting for others to save it. Imagine what we might accomplish in 100 years. 1,000, 10,000. She let that thought hang in the air. We will return to our space and continue building our future. If you leave us alone, we will leave you alone. If you threaten us, you will discover exactly what we are capable of. She turned toward the exit, just as she had done 8 years before. Wait, Thiessen called out. His voice had changed. The anger was still there, but something else had crept in. Surely we can negotiate. Surely there is some arrangement. Vance stopped at the door. There was a time when we would have accepted any arrangement, she said, without turning around. A time when we would have been grateful for any help at all. That time ended when you told 40,000 dead humans that their lives did not matter. We are done asking for your approval. We are done begging for your protection. Now. She turned, and her eyes swept across the chamber one final time. The Cathari thought they were the greatest predators in the galaxy. They learned otherwise. Your council thought it was the supreme authority over all civilized species. You are learning otherwise too. There is a new power in the galaxy now. One that remembers its wounds and repays its debts. One that watches, one that waits. One that will never ever forget. The doors sealed behind her. The council sat in stunned silence. In the years that followed, the galaxy changed more than it had changed in millennia. The council still existed, but its authority faded like morning mist in sunlight. Species that had relied on council protection for thousands of years began to wonder if that protection had ever been real. Old alliances crumbled. New ones formed. Many of these new alliances included humanity. The Deloni were the first to sign a formal friendship treaty with Earth. They opened their borders to human visitors. They shared technology and art and ideas. In return, humanity treated them as true partners, not as subjects or inferiors. Other species followed. Younger races, the ones who had watched their elders abandon humanity to die, began to see a different path. They did not have to wait 3 centuries for council membership that might never protect them. They could build their own relationships, their own communities, their own futures. Humanity welcomed them all. Not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as something the Council had never offered. True equals. Director Alara Vance lived long enough to see the first generation of humans born in this new era. They grew up in a galaxy that knew their species not as victims, but as survivors. Not as beggars, but as builders. Not as the young and weak, but as something ancient powers had learned to respect. Near the end of her life, Ambassador Korath came to visit her on Earth. He found her in a garden, overlooking the ocean, watching the sun set over waters that had witnessed the birth of human civilization. "I have often wondered," he said, sitting beside her, "what humanity truly wants. You have power now that could reshape the galaxy, but you do not use it. You do not conquer. You do not rule." "What is your goal?" Vance smiled. It was a real smile this time, warm with age and memory. "We want what we always wanted," she said. "A galaxy where no one gets abandoned, where the weak are not sacrificed to convenience, where civilization actually means something. And if you cannot build that, then we will be here when the old order falls completely, ready to help the ones worth helping, ready to remember the ones who were not." She looked out at the stars that were beginning to appear in the darkening sky. "We walked away from the Council because they showed us who they truly were. Now we are waiting to see who everyone else chooses to be." Korath sat with her in comfortable silence. Around them, the sounds of a living world filled the air. Children laughing in the distance. Birds calling to each other. Waves breaking on the shore. "My people are grateful," he said finally. "We will never forget what you did for us. And we will never forget that you tried to help us when no one else would," Vance replied. "That is how it should work. Species remembering each other, helping each other, building something together, not rules written by the powerful to protect themselves, not systems designed to abandon the inconvenient. Real connection, real community, real civilization." She closed her eyes. That is what humanity has always wanted. And now, finally, we are strong enough to help build it. Out in the darkness of space, the Galactic Council continued its slow decline. Species drifted away, one by one, to find new paths and new partners. The old order, which had seemed eternal, revealed itself as hollow and humanity. The brief and fragile species that had once begged for help and been refused stood at the center of something new. Not an empire, not a council, just a network of species that had chosen to treat each other as equals. They had walked away from a galaxy that would have watched them die. They had come back as something that galaxy had never expected. Not victims, not conquerors, simply humans. And that, in the end, was enough.